So I think there were two things. The first is that in the non-blockchain world, it's actually really hard to get to design a market or a set of incentives. Like if you think about most of the institutions in the world, that we interact with on a daily basis, there's a lot of bureaucracy and there's a lot of process, and you have to go through a lot to sort of get the opportunity to really play with design. But as in blockchain, people are thinking about redesigning economies all the time. So it's just a really interesting problem that you don't find anywhere else. And second is I saw that there was sort of some necessary knowledge, and I say that blockchain is a team sport, and you need law, and you need technology, and you need strategy, and you also need social sciences in order to design something that's going to work. That's a good question. I think a couple things. One is just the price volatility. I think that people don't like their currencies to be exciting. So if you're thinking of this as a way to buy Starbucks, you want something that people are comfortable spending, you want stuff that merchants are comfortable receiving, and the volatility of, I think, some major cryptocurrencies makes that less attractive. I also think that, unfortunately, sort of the impression of crypto after the ICO activity of the last year or so has made people really wary. So if you just read the popular press, you see sort of, what is this? Why is Bitcoin's price going up? And some third-tier celebrity just got arrested for marketing an illegal security. So that's a great question. So I know that there's a lot of frustration with the SEC in terms of thinking about, what do you need to do to issue, is a token a security or not, and having clarity around that. Actually, the state of Wyoming is doing a lot of work. There's a lot of legacy laws that make using blockchain and crypto difficult. So for example, I think until recently, if you bought or sold a cryptocurrency, it was considered a capital asset and you had to pay capital gains tax. I don't know if you guys have that, but you basically had to pay tax every time you bought or sold a currency, and you don't want to track that, you don't want to deal with it. So Wyoming has slowly started to chip away at some of those various pieces. I think there's still a lot though. So for example, if you go back about 20 years, people thought a lot about what are called technological standards. So it's like the protocol underlying your email, the protocol underlying the internet. It turns out we all use the same one, which is why all our email clients work, and we can all use various browsers to send information to each other. That kind of interoperability is very helpful, but it can also get you in trouble for antitrust if you don't do it correctly. So there's this balance between how do we get big consortia in an industry to work together without them being seen as if they're, colluding and engaging in anti-competitive behavior. I think and to be clear, you see that in non-blockchain settings as well, where you have people who are, really talented in technology and engineering, and they build something that they think is really awesome, and they want to share it. So I don't think that's unique to blockchain. I just think that there will need to be more of a focus on use cases, or at least understanding, there are trade-offs in everything. So if you take something that's usually easy to use and you decentralize it, it might be more difficult to use. And so you have to say, are there sufficient people who care about that enough that they're willing to maybe have a platform that's a little bit harder to use, but it gives them, more security or more decentralization or whatever it is they want. So I would have said no, but for example, the platform or the protocol Tor, I don't know if you're familiar with Tor,
yeah.
But my understanding is that Tor nodes are not compensated. And I was actually reading about this the other day. There are all sorts of Reddit posts about why do people serve as, I think they call it relay nodes, but you know what I mean, the people who route the data. And you say, why do you do this if you don't get paid? And so there's sort of the section that's secretly the FBI that's trying to spy on people. But then a whole bunch of people are saying, I use this service, and the way I pay back is that I also serve as a relay node. And so I think that there is opportunity for that sort of non-financial transaction. We do see it. But I think that it's tricky to make that the basis of your platform, right? So if I had to say, if you're a platform and you're launching and you said, my plan is not to compensate miners because I'm depending on their generosity to give me computing power and space, I would say you might want to consider paying them. But no, we do see all the time, from open source software to Wikipedia to Tor, people contribute resources without financial gain.